Now, how though do you get to this point where you've got people being like, well, you shouldn't have to have the right kind of illness for me to, give you either a tax break on THC or give you access to it, or 51 different conditions that actually, quick story about that. Um, that number got increased. I think it was by like about 15 or 16 conditions in Illinois when the recreational bill got put through. And part of the reason why that was expanded at that point was because those conditions couldn't make it through the actual medical review process that the state had. The dispensaries were wanting to add them. The Department of Public Health was saying there's no evidence for this. So what ended up happening was instead of going through that, there was an end around done through the legislature to get those conditions added. So that's where that came from. Now, where that list comes from, though, like where do you come up with these 51 conditions? It has to do with this question of what does the endogenous cannabinoid system do? Because we do have an endogenous cannabinoid system. And there is evidence to show that it has a hand in a lot of different diseases and disease states. And so the idea here is okay, well, if we have an endogenous cannabinoid system, and it seems like maybe we could either like up the amount it's activated and get a good effect, then why don't we take in this exogenous cannabinoid, THC, to, tickle those receptors, make them fire, and maybe we'll get a positive outcome. Does make sense in theory, but the problem is that the reality of it is very hit and miss. Sometimes you see evidence for it, sometimes you see that it has no impact, and sometimes it even makes it worse. And that's why when you look at studies that examine this, the vast majority of them, even up to now, this one's from a couple years ago, it's saying for the majority of conditions that are common across states, there's insufficient evidence to support the recommendation of medical marijuana. This is one that came out this year. It was accepted in 2022, published in 2023. They were looking at CBD as well as THC, and they basically came to the same conclusion. There's actually not any evidence here that this is can be used as medicine to treat a wide variety of anything. There's a potential to treat them, but we need more preclinical and clinical studies and trials that follow regulatory guidelines because we just don't have that yet. So that's not to say that someone might not experience benefit, that there's individual differences, and who knows, maybe we will even find systematic uh, advantages, use cases for these compounds. But the advertising and the market is definitely, out in front of the skis at this point in terms of what we're selling and claiming versus what we know. Again, just as a quick note, this is from that National Academy of Sciences study of all these different conditions that have just insufficient evidence at that time to push it either way. Everything with a red dot is on the Illinois list. So again, despite the fact that we don't really have any good evidence for it, that's there. And in New York, you can literally use it for anything. Glaucoma was another condition we heard a lot about a long time ago as being like, this is good for this. The American Glaucoma Society says probably shouldn't do it because it doesn't actually improve glaucoma. Basically, your intraocular pressure would just go on a roller coaster ride, and it doesn't change the disease state. You basically just have to be high all the time. And a quick note about PTSD, because I know I'm particularly passionate about this. Um, as a psychologist, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I see clients on a daily basis. I spent 3 years training in the VA. And so treating PTSD is actually a big part of what I do. It is actively contraindicated. And it's very unfortunate that is one of the most, if not the most, commonly approved condition for PTSD in most states. We have multiple therapies that you can use to treat it. And this is feeding the pathology because avoidance is part of the pathology. This study came out a couple years back, found that cannabis use is linked with greater severity of trauma-related intrusive symptoms over time, and a strong directional association between PTSD and cannabis use disorder was evident. This is another study that came out, I think, about a year ago. They found the same thing. Cannabis was associated with other substance use, worse mental health, physical health, um, increased self-harm, suicidality, not a value add, particularly for veterans. And so it's something where, again, a lot of misinformation about these. You can numb out just like with alcohol. Like if you want to avoid PTSD symptoms, you can definitely get drunk all the time, and that will stop you from thinking about it. But that's not necessarily going to solve your problem. And we do actually have ways of treating this disorder. Now, on the CBD front, There are some, in terms of how it works, it actually works very differently. What's interesting about CBD is it actually has very limited activity at those CB1 receptors in the brain, and then CB2 receptors are the primary cannabinoid receptors in the rest of the body. And they are located in other parts of the body. Again, that's the idea there behind why adding cannabinoids might be helpful for disease states. That said, where it does target there's 65 different molecular targets. So it's this very broad, like kind of scattershot impact of CBD in terms of what it hits. Some serotonin channels are the ones in particular that are related to mental health, but these TRPV channels are related to just a bunch of different potential areas of benefit. So that's where with the big one being anti-seizure and convulsant, as well as anti-inflammatory. We see that being the most common positive outcome we're seeing for CBD right now. But there's little other ones here and there. But again, the data isn't quite as strong as we want it to be yet. The breadth, though, of this, excuse me, of the potential targets leads to this speculation that it could be useful for a bunch of different things. Because again, so many different places where it could have an impact. But the question then is, does it actually have an impact? And that's where the data isn't exactly where we want it to be quite yet. And so to date, epilepsy is the only application for CBD that has met FDA standards for human use. There's insufficient or mixed evidence for a number of other conditions, including pain and anxiety, which are, when you think about why people are using CBD, those are oftentimes um, two reasons that you'll hear about a lot. So again, it's not to say that it's necessarily going to be a problem if someone wants to try it, and we'll get to safety in a second, CBD safety in a second. But in terms of what it actually does, that's still it in terms of what we have good evidence for. Now, that being said, there have been studies that look specifically at these systematic claims that are being made about what it can and can't be used for. And this was looking at warning letters from the FDA from 2015 to 2019. And what they found was that there were claims that were made for over 125 unique health problems people were claiming that CBD would help when they were not allowed to do this. Cancer was a really big one. Diabetes, inflammation, pain, arthritis. You can't actually do that right now because we don't have enough. It has not been approved yet, that legal pathway to say that. So the marketing around this, marketing plays such a huge role in how products are perceived. And again, more on that as we go along today. Now, on the safety side, the good news about CBD is that it has a pretty good safety profile. Most people tolerate it really well. Unless you're taking vast quantities of CBD, you're probably not going to have anything negative happen for you. If anything, if it could just be it could just be a placebo, and placebos can be very effective. Don't undersell the placebo effect. There are, again, also some areas where there might even be some true clinical effect, but you're probably not going to hurt yourself with it. That said, the side effects that are listed on the FDA page for Epidiolex are diarrhea, headache, decreased appetite, and being sleepy. There's also higher rates of pneumonia in children who use it. That said, the really high doses, the main concern that we have has to do with liver function, hepatic function. And so large amounts of CBD can sometimes cause problems there, but you don't generally have to worry about it too much. In terms of interaction considerations, so this is another area where, like with any supplement that you're taking or medication, it's useful to talk to a physician about drug interactions because there are some. These receptors that it hits are also acted on by warfarin, which is a blood thinner, some antidepressants and antipsychotics, opioids, antiretrovirals. And I said warfarin twice, so I'll have to delete that. But so there are some interactions, and it's worth, so again, if someone's thinking of using it in a systematic way, just chatting with their doctor about it to make sure that there's not a drug interaction there. Again, it is not approved or regulated by the FDA, though. And so what that means is not only might there be some unfounded claims, but it also means the content and the purity and the lack of contaminants is an issue. So a recent study found that the minority, 30 to 40% of products have the amount of CBD in them that's advertised. And actually 20 to 50% have THC in there. So if you have someone, say, who needs to pass a drug test, that could be an issue. If you have someone who might not want to use THC because they're pregnant or for any other reason, Contamination is a major issue. This was a study from I think a couple of years back that found that it was that impure. So that's again a purpose of the FDA, particularly again around dietary supplements, around medicines, is that there's standards around production. And so we're not seeing that right now in CBD. Just a quick note, this came out about 2 months ago, and I rarely see a journal article published that just hits something so. This was absolutely savage. This was in the Journal on Pain, like a flagship pain journal. They were talking about CBD for pain. And actually, I had no idea that CBD had so little evidence for pain. You can see by the title, ineffective, expensive, and with potential harms. Just skipping the part that was most, popped out at me, 15 of 16 randomized controlled trials showed no benefit of CBD over placebo. 15 out of 16. I did not realize it was that stark. And I can understand why they felt the need to put together a review on this to make it clear. And their conclusion was that there's no good reason for thinking that CBD relieves pain, but there are good reasons for doubting the contents of the products in terms of the CBD content and the purity. So that's where we are right now with CBD and pain. Probably not worth going at it. Like it's probably not going to work for someone outside of placebo. But again, placebo can be pretty nice. But this is the sort of thing when we talk about like why do we not jump the gun? Why do we work with the FDA and go through a multi-phase process? That's why.